Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. You're most welcome. It's time for today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981 with Valentine Ohu.
And Ayo Mairo Ese. Good morning.
Good morning. Today we have joining us to discuss the news stories this morning, Lakunle Yusuf. Good morning, Lakunle. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Valentine.
Good morning.
Good morning, Uade. Good morning, Lagos.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lakunle. Also joining us, we have Uade Ahimie. Morning, Uade. How are you today?
Morning, Ayo. Morning, Valentine. Morning, Lakunle. It's great to be here, and it's great to have the two of you together again.
Oh, it's your first time. That's true.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see the locks growing.
All right, if you'd like to see the locks growing as well, why don't you head on to YouTube, our YouTube channel, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can see what happens behind the scenes and join the conversation. Share the link as well with people anywhere in the world so they can know what's going on in Nigeria.
Speaking of which, you can send messages to WhatsApp. You said that as well. WhatsApp number is 0809-444-0981. Send those messages across 0809-444-0981. You can also use the YouTube platform to leave a message and interact during the conversation. The first story we'll take on is from the Vanguard newspaper. Lakunle, it's a breaking story. Yes, no going back on open grazing. 3% petroleum industry bill to host communities unacceptable. It's a stance by the southern governors. They had a meeting yesterday and they came up with a couple of decisions, a couple of resolutions. Please take us through the story.
So the story, the meeting yesterday is a follow-up to the one that I held in Asaba, I think sometime last month. And it's good to see that all the governors were there or represented except for the governor of Anambra State. And I like it that they are keeping up the energy, but then for me, it's still all talks, no action yet. Like I said last time when they had the Asaba meeting, what were the actionable plans from Asaba that has been done as at yesterday? It didn't speak to any of those actionable plans. All we see here is that they repeated what they said in Asaba last month, and then added the petroleum industry bill that was passed at the beginning of the week to it. Okay, so it goes back to the same thing. The House of Representative members, the senators that passed this bill some of them are from these 17 states. Some of them were handpicked by these governors themselves, especially the second-term governors. So does it mean then that the senators, the reps, didn't give a feedback to the governors while they were discussing and debating passing this bill? That is now after the bill has been passed, which is because the consent of the senators and reps were there. That's why it was passed.
Yes, but also consider that majority wins the vote in things like this. So I think the next question we should be asking is what's majority of, or what's the number of, or what's the size of the representation?
So why was it silent if it was the votes? There were debates before they arrived at what was passed.
Yeah.
Did they discuss with their governors that this is where it was going? Why did the governors make it an issue before it was passed? Why is it after?
Ask a question, Lakunle. Why as our representatives supposed to discuss parties with their governors or with the people who elected them into office?
And who represents?
And the second part is, should they have to come back to the governors, or should the governors be aware of what is going on? Because how many decisions do they come back to, okay, governor, this is what we want to vote to? They have to, shouldn't it be that the governors should also be aware, bear in mind that it was said that this didn't go, PIB went through public hearing. So did the governor attack anyone, knowing the importance of this, to monitor the process, to ensure and cry out before it got to this stage? Because I don't understand how a rep will go back to governor.
It comes back. It's still the same thing all of us have said, that there should be some form of back and forth between the rep and the people they are representing. The governor is also one of them.
Not necessarily.
I am one of them. A lot of us didn't know all these details of this debate until it's been passed.
So here's essentially what I was saying and emphasizing. The fact that the reps don't answer to the governors. The governors should know the processes that are ongoing, and they should be well informed by the virtue of the power or the authority that they hold or the seats they occupy.
Don't forget, they should not be answerable to the governor. But the politics of it, the reality of it is that, like I said, majority of them, if not all, were handpicked by the governors themselves or the party apparatus.
So that's not reality. That's a perception.
No, that is what it
Hang
is.
on, there's a difference.
Okay.
That's your perception of what is happening, right? That's not the reality because you're not in the workings of the politics.
Okay,
right?
we're not in the business of naming names,
yes.
but we would know that is how the politics are played.
Can I just comment briefly here? And I understand what Ayo is saying. So for me, what the governors should have liaison people who are dealing with the National Assembly members. So that office is like you have the special advisor to the president, to the National Assembly. Those are the people who do the politicking, and those are the people who you should ensure that they know what's going on. They're present at all those things.
And when those meetings are being,
when there are issues that need to be
the
dealt
bottom line
with.
of it is that why wait till the bill is passed before you are rejecting?
It hasn't been passed.
The bill is being passed. We are waiting for assent.
Yeah.
So does it then mean that it can influence the president to refuse assent and return to the assembly if that is what they can do? Okay, if that's possible. But I think that crying now to say they reject the 3% may be too late because it's now at the prerogative of the president to either assent or not assent to the bill.
Benga Kamu says on major issues, the reps should consult their constituents. Today, they go to Abuja and do what they like. This again is the pointer to this as to how we hold them to account as the constituents.
Yes. But I would have also liked us to look at the merits of the individual demands that they're making and the things that they are proposing to go. Yeah, I mean. So, some of the things I would mention. First of all, they said they frowned at selective criminal administration of justice and resolved that arrests should be made within the ambit of law and fundamental human rights. They mentioned other things around security, also rejected the proposed 3% and supports the 5% share of the oil revenue. They actually rejected the ownership structure of the proposed Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, company PLC, NMPC, and disagreed that the company be vested in the Federal Ministry of Finance, which should be held in trust by Nigerian sovereign investment.
All of those were the PIB. So that's the issue. The other one is about the security one,
which is what I'll come to. Uade, please speak on this because it's one of the most sore points that the Southern governors touched in the meeting yesterday. They resolved, amongst other things, according to this report from Punch, that security agencies must notify them as the chief security officer of the state before they carry out any operation within their domain. A case in point is clear with the arrest of Sunday Igboho and some other matters.
And I tend to agree with them because even when you look at how security operatives work, even when you have a warrant of arrest from one state to the other, what you usually do is you come into the state and then you notify the commissioner of police, who would now attach someone to lead such arrest as the case may be. And considering the high level of arrest that you're looking at, then it is one thing for them to be able to hear that this is going to happen, or this is going to go on, so that they can also prepare within the state to ensure that things don't go wrong, and at the end of the day they are aware of what could happen and what couldn't happen. But one thing I would say is, with this is my opinion, with the perceived level of
collaboration? Collaboration?
No. Distrust within security operatives, you tend to find that these things are happening, but that's not how it should be. What should be is the chief security officer of the state should be aware of the fact that these things would happen, and they should be communicated either through the commissioner of police or the director in the DSS in the Lagos office and so on. So I tend to agree with them. And with such high level warrants and arrests being given out, at the end of the day, the responsibility of safety of lives and property in that state is the primary responsibility is that.
But beyond that, the body language, the way that arrest was carried out was criticized by a lot of stakeholders, saying that, first of all, it was carried out in such a clandestine manner that was unnecessary. How do you go arrest somebody at midnight? If you had a warrant that's backed by law, obviously the warrants are issued by the court, right? Shouldn't you have done that during the day? So why do you go in the middle of the night, especially going into an area that you're not familiar with? then comes to the issue of collaboration.
Yes, collaboration one. So with collaboration, you will know at what time. Now we should also be careful about saying things that have been done during the day. You need to be able to track and monitor whoever you want to arrest. When are they available? Because some of these things, surveillances are being put in place, and until you know that the person is there, and then you go in there and serve a warrant. So if he has to be in the middle of the night, then he should.
Let's take some comments
just quickly.
because you're going to
Yes. So to add to that, the issue always comes to the fore that the governors are only security officers, chief officers by label. They have state security meetings, the DSS director of the state, the police commissioner in that. So what they discuss with the governor, such that the governor can be aware that those things are happening. Like the case that you just mentioned, at that meeting, the DSS director should have been able to say, we are planning so and so.
If there was a meeting,
yeah, exactly.
There was a meeting.
They hold meeting. There's a state security meeting that holds.
Yeah,
So,
right. But for matters like this, that seems like an emergency. You don't expect that a meeting was.
Of course, yes, no.
So brings us to the question of.
All right. So Yinka says Lakunle just touched on the vital point. Truly, shouldn't rep members, senators, ministers from a state, and the state governor of a particular state have like quarterly meetings so that they can be in line on issues like this? But no, a senator is most times a failed governorship aspirant or a former governor who feels he's the sitting governor or who feels the sitting governor is his boy.
Victor Wakasi says, talking in public advocacy, in the past we do not have this level of interest advocacy. It's a welcome development that they are now talking. Action follows gradually. The pointers are towards true federalism, and it's not achieved in a day. Thank you. And Victor's point is actually true. I was thinking while we're discussing that, you rarely find governors meeting like this.
Wale says the question is, was there a public hearing? Was it mentioned? If so, then no one should important to highlight this, is because this is the point at which Nigerians often cry foul. When it's gotten to such an advanced stage that it would take a lot more work to reverse if it's even possible at all. So it's just helping us to engage better with the political process. We keep highlighting, emphasizing the fact that you should know your reps, you should know the way to vote, you should know what's on the floor of the house, you should attend public hearings, and you should give your contributions as well. Until we do that, we will continue complaining at this point when it might be too late.
That's right. Thank you so much for that, Ayo. Let's go to our next story. The Punch newspaper has this report. Kaduna orders closure of 13 schools. I have a list of schools named here in the details of this story. But according to this Punch report, there was an attack on school, Bethel Baptist High School, yesterday in Kaduna State. Consequently, these other schools, 13 schools, were under shot. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think this should have been done when the first two attacks were carried out, I think a couple of weeks ago in Kaduna, and it's becoming more and more rampant in Kaduna in particular. So I welcome the development by the Ministry of Education to protect the lives of the students of those schools. But the next thing is, aside from shutting them down, what are the things you're putting in place so that they can continue to get the education that is required? So and then for stop future attacks. So the ministry should ensure that the schools put together a proper learning platform online, and so that these kids are not just going back home.
That's a different conversation. Online education.
WAEC, NECO, EKE are still going to hold in August. What are the plans for these children that their schools are closed? This is July.
Can I answer a question?
Please do.
INEC said no input, no electronic voting. So are we still hoping that we're going to leave
All right. That's a good point to go on the break. You don't have it a seller. Think on this so while we go on this break and come back, we continue the conversation.
online education.
All through the lockdown, there were cases for this is an important opportunity to invest in online learning. Did we do anything? Was anything done?
That guy that made the point about these guys having meetings together regularly.
Yes.
Very
I've never seen the South Governors United.
You guys, thank you.
It's
Here's Nigerian Governors Forum.
Yeah.
You like it that. I like the energy that they put into what they are doing.
Back in
But
10
they
seconds.
put the action.
Thank you, Andre. check the time is 7:46. You're listening to Freshly Pressed 91 with Ayo Mairo Ese
And Valentine Ohu.
and our special guest analyst in the studio, Uade Ahimie and Lakunle 70. Those are the handles on social media. Please go follow the conversation. Sorry?
Yeah, Ahimie underscore.
Thank you, sir. The Punch newspaper has this report. Lakunle, I'd like you to touch on this. It's a new bill that has been passed, or an amended version of an existing bill, the criminal justice law of the state. It bars Nigerian police force from parading suspects before the media in the states. And somebody shouted amen. On Monday, that was yesterday, we talked about how it is that when you parade suspects, and by parading them, beyond defaming their character, beyond destroying their image in front of the public, while they are still suspects, it almost affects, not almost.
Like I said, like I always do, I'm jubilated for this piece of news. It's good that we're now legally putting an end to trial by media, at least from the official point of view. Okay, so the identities, I hope that they specifically say in that bill that the identities of suspects must be protected, and that details of when I say identity, things like name, pictures, and all that are not disclosed until they have a case that they can take to court. Then the other bit of it is also that I hope that the police would respect and obey this law, because we have a history of our law enforcement blatantly disregarding and disobeying laws, and I hope that they will obey this. And I hope that in that bill there's a punishment specified for security agents who flout this law as well, because that will be the only way we can actually arrest, we can stop them from disobeying the law itself. But it's in all of it, it's a very good one from Lagos State Assembly. We hope that they will do more people oriented laws like this that protects people's privacy and dignity.
Thank you very much. Isn't it interesting that in addition to analyzing these kind of stories, we are hoping that when the law has been passed, it will be it will obey. I mean, when did we get to this point whereby we are hoping that the law is passed and the authorities would adhere or would abide by these laws? That's a bit unfortunate.
You want me to answer that?
No, I'm just saying it's okay. Yeah. Samuel from Lekki says, wow, I never believed you guys would accept shutting up Kaduna schools. I took that because it's important. I don't think we said we accepted just to hijack you. Okay, so let's go on to our next story. Uade, on Lagos rally, it seems like it's talking about Lagos State security matters. Sanwo-Olu orders probe into girls' killing. We'll just touch on this very quickly because we did take this story yesterday. But just to give our listeners an update, because we spoke extensively about
So
this.
first and foremost, I commiserate with the family of the girl that was killed.
Okay.
What critical things here is what Lagos State is talking about the inquiry under the Coroner Systems Law of Lagos, which Section 14.1 says a report of death shall be made to any of the agencies for the report of death or the office of the coroner and be subject to postmortem. So I hope they'll carry out that proper postmortem and do the proper investigations and find out what exactly happened. But really, it's really a sad story, and I feel for the family of the 14-year-old girl.
Yes. Thank you very much. I know there was a disparity as to her age. I think her family members came to that she was 25, so she wasn't
Whatever
a
the
teenager yet. Whatever the age is, just to
It was-
ensure
it
that,
was.
yeah,
And it's
she
really
gets
sad.
justice. We will keep our eye on this one, and hopefully the Lagos State government will make good on their promise to ensure that not only do they get to the bottom of this matter, but whoever is culpable would face the consequences of their action. Let's move on to next story here, Lakunle, and that is there will be uproar if truth about Nnamdi Kanu's arrest comes out. Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka has warned that there will be a huge score. Using his words, if the truth is known about how the federal government arrested the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. Let me just point out, I thought it was quite poetic that he used the word kidnap, that he kidnapped him, because that's the same issue that we're facing in Nigeria and that we're asking the government to deal with. So he's accused them of the same thing that we're saying is such a big problem here, and that they kidnapped Nnamdi Kanu, and it goes against all international laws. Please take us to the story.
My first question to myself when I saw this was, what does Prof know that the rest of us don't? So apparently from saying that, there must be some things he knows that the government does not know that the rest of us do not know.
You think the government don't know?
I'm
Or
saying
maybe the rest-
because he's saying if
Okay.
it comes to the public, because the government, from according to the Attorney General, says they collaborated with Interpol and the country where Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was arrested and brought to Nigeria. Okay, so where the issue of kidnap may come in will be that did they process him in the country where he was arrested before they transferred him to Nigeria, or that they just made sure he was in that country, they picked him up and sent him to Nigeria straight. So if there is no record of being processed as international criminal in that country, then maybe the word criminal and kidnap may be applicable. Okay, so whatever else it is that may have happened that Professor Oshoyinka is alluding to using the word kidnap, then I may not be able to speak to that. But for the purpose that officially, if he was not processed in the country where he was arrested before he was transferred to Nigeria, then it might just be kidnapped truly. But the important thing here is that if the government had done if they reported to Interpol, like they said, and it's Interpol and the host country where he was arrested had participated, I think that then it is a fair deal in terms of arresting him and bringing him to Nigeria to face his outstanding case in the courts.
Can I just highlight the fact that extradition laws are obeyed internationally in such ways that if you're going to extradite a citizen of your country from another country, first of all, you have powers over citizens that bear their passports, or their citizens bearing the passport of your country, right? You have the Nigerian passport. So, but before they can extradite you from those countries, they will have to seek and go through the court process in that country.
That's why I said that processing.
Exactly. No, I understand. I'm just putting it in context so everybody understands.
So just to add to what you said, I think it was after the arrest, and he said he was arrested in Kenya, and the Kenyan government actually denied the fact that
There are still rumors.
I was going to say,
nobody really does know.
Yemi mentioned that. However, I put it as a note for us to confirm that claim, because you know how it is. I mean, yesterday they said Obasanjo was forming a party. Today he said he's not forming any party. So when we hear statements like that, just so that we clarify a proper statement from the Kenyan government to ensure that they're saying that they didn't have a hand in it or they were not aware.
But for me, if what Prof is alluding to is true,
Yeah.
I won't be surprised because it's happened before, a long time ago.
No, we're all
And
speculating because
That's why I said
Because there is
if
no-
what he's saying
exactly.
is
because
what
of
he's
the
alluding to,
sensitivity or the
it
sensitive
won't
nature
surprise me.
of it.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much. Again, another unfortunate thing that won't surprise us. It's very unfortunate. Prince has this comment.
It says, I like what southern governors are doing, speaking with one voice, like northern counterparts, but what is their position on autonomy for local government, state house of assemblies, and state judiciaries? All these arms of government are dead on the state level. They all behave like gods in their states and now demanding equity and justice from the federal. Interesting. Here's another one from Emmanuel. Emmanuel says, good morning, freshly pressed. EFCC is a major practitioner in the pardon of alleged, not convicted suspects. I hope they are copied on that memo.
In fact, they've been on a roll. They've been on a roll. With a big placard, a big signboard, and a thief, even though you haven't gone to do it. What happened to innocent until proven guilty?
But you know what's even interesting is the fact that when you hear of security operatives who have been caught in such nefarious activities, they're not named.
Because they protect their
We
own.
just say yes, 5 members.
That's when that presumed innocence comes into play. They go back to the law. All right, let's go on to our next story. Bill prohibits street begging, skills, second reading in Katsina Assembly. So the first thing, I mean, without even going through the story, but I'm sure you take us through what it was like. Can this be adopted in states? I mean, this goes on.
If this happens in Katsina,
Katsina
they welcome development to pushing the educational system in the north in that direction. Why? Because when you look at the story, one of the major things that the government is pushing, that's Governor Aminu Masari, is to ensure that the Sangaya education program is properly implemented. So I had to quickly look at access to equity to basic education for our margins. So many schools have been built by the federal government and not being used. Discourage and eliminate itinerant children movement and begging, and facilitate enabling environment to include Islamic discipline in basic education, which for me, when everybody talks about our margins, they tend to forget that even the the principles of the Quran speaks to how these things must be. It doesn't mean that you're begging, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be educated, and so on. So I'm looking forward to the state assembly passing this and the governor signing it, and the rest of the states within that province would align to it and push more children into school.
Thank you very much. I know, like they mentioned, that it becomes a threat to security.
Yeah.
It usually escalates to that. It becomes such a big problem. I think another part of it that might throw up some concern is that they say they want to take them, they want them to return to their state of origin. And we know how that was quite an uproar in terms of even when it happened in Lagos State. That was a thing. So how do we deal with that? How do we send them back to school? How do we secure? How do we make sure that children in the north are educated?
So quickly, I'll just say two things.
Yeah.
One, collaboration, like Valentine said, amongst the state governors. Providing basic education is meant to be free across Nigeria. So if that is the case, it means that some form of contribution from, if you know where their states of origin, which for me really doesn't make sense. But if you do know that, you can collaborate with those states and get some form of funding towards these basic educations for these children, more like a scholarship. That's one. And then secondly, actually ensuring that in moving them back, all states agree to what these things are going to be, and there's a proper system of putting them into schools and not just dumping them in another state where they're not going to provide that education for them. Which brings us to the other states ensuring that bills are passed in this direction.
Absolutely. Now, going back to the Kenya High Commissioner, yes, I can confirm that the Kenya High Commissioner to Nigeria, Wilfred Machage, said Kenya was not involved in the alleged arrest and extradition to Nigeria of Mr. Kanu. However, they were actually saying it as a statement of support to the government, saying that the family had mentioned that they worked with the government to bring him back to Nigeria. So it would continue to unfold. Hopefully, we'll get the full picture of what's really transpired in getting him back to Nigeria. All right, our final story here, Lakunle. Electricity workers issue strike notice to federal government over planned sale of TCN, that's the Transmission Company of Nigeria. NLC President Ayo Mairo made this statement saying, and I want to quote something he said. He said almost 8 years after the privatization of the power sector, there had not been any visible improvement in terms of power supply, expansion, and investment by the new owners of the discos and gencos. He also raises an important question around the cement deal as to what is happening with that. He's saying that this is a scam because of what has happened in the past. Is he right? Is he well within his right to make this statement and say they shouldn't sell TCN?
Saying they shouldn't sell for just one single reason, in my opinion. The transmission company is a national asset, just like your telco, your
Why are you mentioning it?
so just like your oil and gas. Yes, your refinery, for example. So you see, the thing about it is that you need to have something to guarantee access to these things to your citizens. You cannot afford to put the transmission company 100% in the hands of private individuals who can, at their whims and caprice, hold you to ransom as they wish.
That's why
today. So the way it is supposed to go for me, maybe where we are, maybe we start with LNG model, sell 51% of it, own 49% of it, so that you have some form of say in it. Now, 8 years.
Think they were going to sell 100%? I don't think there's for such an asset like that. I would doubt very strongly if the government would be selling 100%.
I hope not.
No, there are laws around it. You're not allowed to sell.
I hope not. That's what they said, that they were not going to do the discos as well. But it's essentially today, even though they have, I think, 10-20% in the discos,
they have at least 30%.
30%. So it must be, it's just to state it for the records that that is the model that we should be looking at. And then in that 8 years, today I think we have up to 20,000 megawatts installed capacity to generate. But the transmission is only about 5,000. Anything above that, the system will collapse. So all the monies we spent in 20 years is not showing. So that means that he's right to say that is a scam. People spend
So,
so much money
all right.
in that time, and we're not seeing any difference.
Okay, so we're out of time, right? So we're going to leave this in the hands of our listeners because in 10 minutes we're going to open the phone lines and get people to call in. So perhaps we hear their thoughts on this. If you have an expert view on this point, you want to speak on this, please by all means call us in about 10 minutes or 9 minutes time. A big thanks to our analysts. Thank you, Lakunle Yusuf. Thank you, Uade Ahimie.
Thank you,
Right?
Ayo. Thank you,
Time is
Valentine,
never
for having
enough.
us.
Thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to those who sent in comments on WhatsApp and YouTube. 10 minutes or 8 minutes now, we'll be coming back for Lagos Talks.